let's take a look at hypertrophy or hypertrophy, depending how you say it, in relation to this updated ACSM position stance that we have. Now, we've already looked at strength. Strength is maximum amount of force you can exert. Hypertrophy is size, so that's growing your muscle. And although there is overlap between the two, they are slightly different styles of training, and often they're different goals. Not everybody wants to increase their muscle size, and you can get strong without it. So there is overlap in what has been found, but there are also some key differences. Now, a little bit like strength, when the meta-analysis, or 137 of them, were pulled, they're looking at patterns of information that emerge from looking at thousands of papers. So when we looked at resistance training versus nothing in novices, anything helped. Many types of resistance training helped. Standard, circuits, bands, home training, machines, free weights, you name it. Pretty much everything had an impact, which is great news if you don't strength train already, because doing anything is better than nothing. That shouldn't really be a big surprise. And often it's overcomplicated, and that complication is a barrier. It's a genuine barrier to people doing strength training, because gyms are not accessible for everybody, and this perception that you have to lift big weights or do a certain thing means that some people don't even try. So this information is really important. When they looked at differences between types of resistance training, again, much less mattered than you would think. In fact, there are only two major players when they looked at all the different types of resistance training variables. One was contraction type. Eccentric training outperformed concentric training. Simply put, that's the part where we're working with gravity. For example, in a bicep curl, I lift up, that's concentric, that's against gravity. I have to work and fight against gravity to lift my hand. Eccentric, in theory, gravity could just pull me down, boom. But when I work slowly and resist coming down, that's eccentric. It's the lengthening part of the movement. That works better than concentric. So that's something that if hypertrophy or getting an increase in size is important, that's the type of training you should probably be doing. The other one was volume. Higher sets per body part. The sweet spot seemed to be 10 plus, and volume across a week, 10 plus. So whether that was across multiple sessions or one, didn't seem to really matter. When they looked at frequency, 1 to 5 sessions a week, didn't matter when volume was controlled for. So the sweet spot is probably 2 to 3 sessions a week, making sure that you're getting 10 plus sets per body part that you're exercising across that week, in whatever form you make that happen. Now, things that made no difference across all these different meta-analyses. Frequency was one that I just mentioned. Load was actually another. Now, there is a lot of noise in the industry that heavy is the only way to go. And that was not found to be true. They assessed load between 30% of 1 rep max all the way up to 100% of 1 rep max. And it didn't really make much difference, which is actually great news, because that fear that you have to lift heavy to get a result is unfounded. And people really need to stop saying that heavy is the only way forward, because it's not. In fact, heavy can be unsafe for novices, and it can be unsafe for those with venous conditions or injuries, and it can be unsafe for older adults at risk of bone fracture. So although lifting heavy, yes, great. And if it floats your boat and it's what you want to do and it's safe for you, fantastic. But saying it's the only way to go isn't true, and it isn't helpful, because we have a problem in this country. Resistance training has so many benefits. It helps with disease burden. It helps you maintain independence. It helps with your health span. And 70 to 80% of the population are not doing it. And that's not because they don't know it's good for them. It's because of perception. It's because of accessibility. It's because of cost. So if we can break down some of those blockades, we can make the population healthier and not just live longer, but live well for longer. And that's a pretty big deal. Anyway, I'll just get off my podium for a second and come back to the position stand. Other things that didn't help when it came to hypertrophy: absolute failure. We talked about this when we looked at strength. Absolute failure is not important for strength or hypertrophy. Getting within 2 to 3 good quality reps of failure, sure. But absolute failure, which, let's face it, is pretty uncomfortable for a lot of people, that wasn't important. Changing the load during a set, so swapping out your resistances, which is a technique that's used in the strength world, that didn't make a difference. Time under tension, fast reps versus slow reps, that also didn't make a difference. So while it can be fun to play around with different timings of your reps, it's not having an overarching bearing. So it's not something you need to worry about. Periodization also did not have as much of an impact as you would think. This went for strength too. And they actually looked at linear, non-linear, and undulating periodization. Progressive overload is something the industry hangs its hat on and says must happen in order for you to keep getting gains. And if we're looking at optimal gains, sure, you probably need to keep manipulating something or trying to make a change. But for a lot of people, optimal isn't necessary. Significant is. Significant increases in strength, significant increases in hypertrophy, that doesn't require optimal, constant progression. So when people start a resistance training program, whether it's for strength or hypertrophy or endurance or a whole mix of those things, they'll start light and there'll be a period where they build, usually 3 to 6 months up to a year. But after that, what the researchers are finding is that if you never make another change again, you can hold your current gains. You just got to keep doing it. So again, consistency, doing something beats constantly trying to change what you're doing if it's not important to you, which for a lot of people it isn't. When you're in the fitness world, you're often looking for these marginal gains. If you're an athlete, you're looking for the tiny edges that will help you outperform. But that's not most people. And we need to get this message out to most people, not a few people. So the take-home message when it comes to these updated guidelines, this updated position stances, most forms of resistance training help versus no resistance training. If you're looking to really optimize hypertrophy, do eccentrics and do higher volume. Try and do 10 plus sets per body part across a week. And the rest is just noise. Don't worry about the rest. I hope that's helped. If there's any surprises, drop a little comment in the notes and let me know how it might change your training, or if you're a fitness instructor, how it might change what you're prescribing for your clients. One more thing. When it comes to hypertrophy, it is not just the training. Now, this was not looked at by the ACSM position stand, but it's no less important. To grow muscle requires the right environment and it requires the right genetics. So you have to eat well. You actually have to be in a very slight calorie surplus and you have to be eating enough protein, although less than a lot of the gym bros will tell you. And a lot of the research on protein and when to eat it is quite interesting, because that 1 hour window after training doesn't seem to be as important as they would have you believe, and just having enough protein across the day seems to be a thing. That aside, eating well, slight calorie surplus, picking your parents wisely, good genetics. Some people just grow muscle better than others. Endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph. If you're a mesomorph like I am, I'm sort of naturally a bit more muscular, I'm going to find it easier than an ectomorph. Not to say it's impossible, but it can be more challenging. So body types matter when it comes to picking your sport and what you're trying to achieve. Getting enough sleep, not being too stressed when you're trying to build amino acid blocks. High levels of cortisol are catabolic, so being chilled, that helps. So it's not just the training. All of these things matter if you are serious about growing muscle.